Hey everyone, I'm Nick and welcome back to episode 9, which is the last live show for Sci-Finatics for the year. Thanks everybody for joining in to all the live shows we've had so far. And we've got a great show for you today. As always, encompassed by an extreme content of Star Trek experts, as always, to give us the rundown as to everything that's been going on in the world of Star Trek. It is always my pleasure. He's been on the show many times before. He's a very good friend of the channel. It is always my pleasure to welcome Seán Ferrick from TrekCulture to the show. Welcome, Seán.
Thank you very much for having me.
And his first time to the show. He is one of the two gentlemen that does the amazing Star Trek podcast, GreatestTrek. It is my great pleasure to welcome Ben to the show. Welcome, Ben.
Hey, how you doing?
And as always, David here joining me, as always, as part of the panel. Welcome, David.
Hi, everyone.
So basically what we're going to talk about today is we're going to go through the last few episodes of Star Trek Lower Decks, get everyone's impressions of what they liked about the last few episodes. We had a lot of interesting content in those last few episodes of Lower Decks, so we're going to go through that, particularly focusing, of course, on that two-part finale, episodes 9 and 10 for the show, which obviously wrapped up the entire series. And then at the end, we'll probably talk about some stuff that's happening in Section 31. We had the full trailer drop for that a couple of weeks ago. We'll go through some of the imagery and some of the details and everything for that Section 31 trailer and get everybody's impressions and a bit of speculation as to what we think is coming up and what's going to be part of this new Star Trek made-for-TV movie. So let's start off with episode 7, Fully Dilated, which was our episode of Lower Decks that saw our girls in disguise, the old Star Trek trope of donning the alien makeup and everything, and heading down to an away mission on a planet that was rather surprising, because in this away mission we obviously got the return of Brent Spiner in the role of Data. As a head, he's appeared as a head on a few occasions before in Star Trek, and this was a bit of fun seeing him returning as a head in Star Trek Lower Decks. Although he had a bit more of a purple hue to him this time around. So let's start off. What did you guys think? How about Seán? You start us off. What was your reaction and feeling about Brent Spiner returning to play Data in this episode of Lower Decks?
I thought this was a lot of fun because it's the first time he's played Data as we remember him from Next Generation since Next Generation ended. Because this was the emotionless, the much more 7 seasons version of Data I love. And it was just fun and silly. And some of the one-liners just landed so dryly and so well. Like for example, it just seems like a missed opportunity when purple is available. Things
Gray,
like that.
You should use grey. No.
I just thought it was lovely. It was fun. It was silly, and it was a nice light episode. I mean, a lot of Lower Decks episodes are light, obviously, but it was a nice kind of low stakes, high return episode, I thought. And it was just fun having Brent Spiner back again.
Of course. Ben, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, fun to have Brent Spiner. I think that they've really struggled with how to bring him back in other things because he's sort of aged out of the part of an aging android. But yeah, I think that while Star Trek's writers have not always had a great mastery of comedy, I think the performers tend to be really good at landing funny lines. Like, I mean, Garrett Wang in later eps was so funny to me, and Brent Spiner the same. Like, he really knows how to deliver on the comedy level. And I think also Fully Dilated is just an episode that really underscores the strength of animation in a Star Trek context, because you can build out these environments in so much more detail. It's not just the courtyard of the week set that they always visited in TNG. Like, you can actually have a full town with tons of extras walking around doing stuff, and it doesn't blow the budget because it's animation.
Of course. David, what did you enjoy this episode?
Yeah, I did. Look, it was good to see Brent Spiner back in again. Also, just the moments he had with Tindy, they were really quite good, as she was sort of, I guess, needing probably a bit of a helping hand to, get into that senior science position that she was sort of vying for with T'Lyn. So yeah, it was really good to see the magic there. And as Sean said, we haven't sort of seen Data or Brent Spiner as Data for a while, so it was good and refreshing to kind of revisit that character again. And especially as just a head, a celebrity head.
Yeah, it's like, how is he going to give her a helping hand in this condition?
Very good point, Ben. Very good point.
This is true.
Yeah,
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think, as you say, I think there's a lot of episodes this season I found that had that, definitely that sort of Planet of the Week vibe about them. I think this season to me didn't feel anywhere near as serialized as previous seasons. They were very much sort of self-contained episodes almost this season. We obviously got a little bit of stuff at the start, which established the fissures, but really that didn't kind of come back into it again until episodes 9 and 10. Every other episode was kind of very almost self-contained in its storytelling, and I think that enabled them to do episodes like this, where you get that Star Trek trope of them, doing the away mission. And I think the part of this episode where we had Boimler and Rutherford just absolutely freaking the hell out at the transporter console because they spilt their cocktails all over it, and it's like every second that passed was like a week or something, I think, for the girls on the planet. And rubbing the uniforms on the, like, I thought that was, let's face it, Boimler at the best of times is so manic, but seeing how they were responding in this situation was just like manic to the nth degree, which I loved.
I loved as well. Rutherford's his beginning of stubble. Sorry, tripping over my words today. Yes, he was stubborn with his stubble in this episode, playing on that trope of, like, when Geordi was doing his beard for a week. I loved. Like this episode for a while was like, my favorite episode of the season. I thought it was brilliant. It was really, really well done. I still think it's really, really well done. Got picked there toward the end, but absolutely good. Just good track.
I'm really curious. You're all from parts of the Anglosphere that I wonder, do you have micheladas there? Do people drink this drink where the three of you are from?
I have to say it was news to me. Yeah, it was. Ben, please enlighten us as to this rather elaborate cocktail.
Well, it's not that elaborate. I mean, it's at its base, a michelada is like hot sauce, lime juice, and beer. So it's and like, I mean, in convenience stores here, you can buy like a cup that has like, I guess, like lime flavoring and hot sauce like crusted on the inside. So all you need to do is pour a beer in, and it will dissolve that, and you have a michelada. But we talked a little bit on my show, Greatest Trek, about like the elaborate garnishes that they have, which I associate much more with Bloody Marys, which I'm sure you're all familiar with.
Of course.
I don't think of this as being a michelada thing, but I mean, maybe in a utopian Star Trek future, we can have crazy garnishes in our micheladas as well.
Do you think that drink was chosen because of its extra kind of messy nature? They were searching for a cocktail that would cause the greatest amount of damage to a transporter console.
That could be it, but I think a Bloody Mary would do that too,
Yes.
But it sort of goes to show you probably need some spray and wipe and a good rag in every transporter room in case you have incidents like this.
Yeah, or like a squeegee, like you see in some people have like glass shower doors
in the shower. Yeah.
I was thinking, like, I actually have one of those in my own shower. Good shout. But yeah, I was thinking, is this just
Congratulations.
the funniest drink as well that's ever been invented? I was like, because did anyone else get really uncomfortable and they're trying to mop it and they were just moving the drink around the console?
Yes. They weren't actually removing any of it. It was just spreading it even greater into the buttons or whatever.
Right. Anybody who's ever like, splashed some water on their face and had a droplet of water land on their phone screen and like paused the podcast that they were listening to knows that this is not the way,
Yes.
And wouldn't it have been quicker to have gone to, say, an alternative transporter room? I mean, is there maybe a B transporter room that they could have maybe run to beam the girls up rather than sort of, those months or weeks, it was months literally that went through there as they're feverishly trying to, squeegee the console.
Because we know from Star Trek Picard, it only takes 17 seconds to get from one part of a starship to another part of a starship. They would have saved them dozens of weeks on this planet.
I also love that for this episode, any kind of vocal communication with the computer just didn't work. You couldn't say, "Oh, that's not working. Sorry, computer, energize." No, Doritos. That's not how this works.
Yes, we have to actually push the physical button to make it work. You got to slide the little slider up, and if you can't slide the little slider up, you're out of luck. In no luck.
100%. Yeah, I'm just looking at the comments there. Chad McGargle, stop poking at our plot device. We won't. We love it. We're having too much fun.
Yes. But yeah, no, I think, and the lurking guy, I think as well, that followed the girls around on the planet. What's his name? Smee or Snee or
Snell.
Snell. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just because in every single one of these away type missions, there's always some person who's poking their nose in where it's not wanted, and highly suspicious. And I love the fact at the end, what was it? They drew a face on one of Talin's melons or whatever it was, and just and the whole village just kind of completely threw him under the bus into that idiot, like, oh, what are you talking about? Like, it's just a face on a melon. That's not a yes.
There's a bit of a Wilson vibe about that too, I noticed.
This is true. So I mean, what I think I love the fact that in the episode, obviously we there were so many call outs and references to Time's Arrow as well, and I think there's more than one episode. Well, apart from Time's Arrow, wasn't there at least one or two other episodes where Data spent a significant amount of the episode just as being reprogrammed as just a removable head or something? I think. Do you guys remember what the other one was where he had his head removed? And
Disaster would be another one.
That's right. Yes.
So that one is good fun. I love the line. I once spent 300 years in a cave until I was found by Captain Picard and some guy. and myself. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I think B4 was maybe ahead for a while in Insurrection. Was that Insurrection?
That's right. Yeah. Yes. Nemesis, wasn't it?
Oh, Nemesis. Yeah, you're right. It's Nemesis.
Yes. Yeah.
Before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Insurrection is one where everybody's boobs get firmer.
Yes. That's right. And
that's the thing about that movie.
Yeah.
You Klingons never do anything small. Movie.
Absolutely. All righty. Well, let's move.
Also, Blink of an Eye. That was probably. I was just say, Blink of an Eye was probably, I guess, one of the one of those stories where the time passes at a different rate. Where it was the Voyager episode, I guess.
Yeah,
that's right.
A bit of Carbon Creek in there, and a bit of Thine Own Self. I think those were some of the other influences, of course, aside from the Inner Light. And I've got to say,
oh yes,
Mariner
the soap
playing
flute,
that
but
Western
Mariner
flute.
with her bad soap flute. Yes.
Oh yeah, it reminded me of one of those horrible YouTube memes. I've heard "My Heart Will Go On." If you've ever heard that recorder rendition on YouTube, it's shocking. Look it up. You'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I love the fact that she, even though she felt like, because we're on this mission and she's got the reference and the linkage to Inner Light, she kind of felt obligated to carve the flute out of soap, and did her best to try to learn to play it, but obviously was nowhere near as good as obviously Picard got, because I mean, Picard was in there for a whole lifetime, so he managed to master his flute a little bit better than what Mariner did.
I've got to say also the episode title, Fully Dilated, I was kind of expecting maybe some sort of pregnancy episode when I first heard of it.
Yes.
So, glad I was disappointed.
I just love as well.
Let's
anything that sees the girls on a mission together. Like some of my favorite episodes have been Tendi, Tillin, Mariner. I love that interplay. Just Tillin in general.
Yeah, I think the dynamic, certainly since Tillin was brought in as one of the lower deckers, I think it changed the dynamic in a good way, where they could do these sort of episodes where the girls go off and have their little the girls away mission or whatever or something. I think her addition to the show created a nice dynamic, I think.
Yeah.
Let's move on with episode 8, Upper Decks, which was our episode where we basically got to focus on the main bridge crew for the episode, and not the lower deckers in this particular one. And I'm glad we got to do this, because obviously the show does tend to focus on the lower deckers, hence obviously the name of the show, and our bridge crew don't tend to probably get as much focus. So I think it was great that we actually got to see a day in the life of the upper deckers in this third last episode of the series. It was a bit of an interesting one. We obviously had a lot of different sort of strange stuff going on with weird kind of space cows, and the Clickets, the insectoid alien race. But yeah, it was sort of a bit of everything. We had dramatic sort of one-man show performances and pregnancies and stuff that was going on. It was a bit of a mixed bag. What did you guys make of this episode? Who wants to start us off?
I was just distracted the entire time by Dr. Ta'ana's insatiable masochism.
Yes,
unquenchable
absolutely.
thirst for pain.
Yes.
And like an entire crew that is willing to accommodate that, it seems like.
Yes.
They were just like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yes, like she even had herself hooked up to some like Bond villain kind of contraption at one point, where they had the whole laser beam thing from Goldfinger or whatever shooting at her and atomizing her or whatever. But yet she just seems to brush it off. So I'm not sure that they've established the physiology of Caitians as to being this resilient before, have they?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a 9 lives thing or what.
Right? It just seems like, in the animated series, just, whenever there's any kind of unknown or hostile situation, send them rests in first, and then after that, you can start to figure out, all right, yeah, she's alive. Grand. Okay, now we'll send the rest of the away team.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, what else do we have in this episode? We also had Shax imagining himself back in his younger days or whatever, beating the crap out of a bunch of Cardassians during the whole Bajoran occupation and so forth. There was, everybody kind of had something sort of quite quirky going on with, obviously, Ransom and the others in the cargo bay dealing with the cows, with the scientist there what was it? Inyo, the same race as what's his name?
Grazerite, Jaroshinho, yeah.
Yes, that's him. Yeah. It was sort of. It was an interesting episode. It was sort of it just seemed it was almost like a kind of a kaleidoscope of just these cutting between these moments of each different crew member, and each one, I think, as we got through the episode, was just getting more and more, out there. I think particularly the stuff that Freeman was doing, ticking off her list on the pad and so forth.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. The whole just like a collection of vignettes, really. And I know on first watch, I know I've spoken about this already, but as first watch, I was a bit like, oh God, we've only got 3 episodes left. I mean, like, do we have time for this? But I'm sure somebody watching season 7 of Next Gen probably said the exact same thing about Lower Decks, and look how well that episode has aged. So I think, having gone back and watched it since, knowing where the season goes, and I've enjoyed it, I think, more on rewatch. Although, considering where Jack's career has taken him, interesting to see if this is now still his style of dealing with the crew on the Cerritos, if this is what he does going forward.
I mean, it's a great question. I think anybody that's had a boss that seemed like an incompetent idiot hopes that they're secretly a Jack Ransom.
Yes.
But more often than not, it seems like they are actually incompetent idiots.
Yes, I think I would concur with that assessment.
I did think that the Shax storyline, it was so very Shax, but wow, they went dark. It was kind of like, it's fun, trauma from occupation and resistance. Fun,
Yeah.
Okey-dokey. But
we were talking on my show about how it seemed like an opportunity to go into a little bit more about what happened when Shax died and fought his dad.
I was thinking
not the direction they went in.
Yeah, I thought they might have addressed that, because they never really explained that at the end of beginning of season 2, wasn't it? They just Shax is back, and we just keep on rolling and just don't ask any questions. So you're right. I had actually thought there might have been some and a little bit of information, and we even got that reference. I think it was in episode 10 where they said, remember when Boimler almost gets shot by Rutherford's eye laser or whatever, and then then they sort of look over to Shax, and he's gibbering in a booth and slamming the table and spilling his food, whatever. So yes, he's come back to life, but he's is he completely all right? Or maybe just not quite right.
Now that you bring that up, so there's that scene in episode 9, and then in episode 10 we get a little bit earlier than that in the same hang, and Dr. Ta'ana invites Shax to go do sexy hangs in the holodeck.
Oh yeah.
So then he's super crazed and angry at his mashed potatoes after that.
Well, let's face it, we did get a glimpse of Dr. Ta'ana's pain threshold from episode 8. So you can only imagine what she is like in the bedroom department based on that.
Yeah, he does seem to get scratched up a lot when they go off for their hijinks together.
I still remember that scene where they're doing all the training in the hollow pods, and Mariner just sees Shax and Ta'ana coming out, just literally crawling on top of each other. Yeah, that's...
Yes, and we also had the Billups stuff. The Billups and Ensign Meredith was part of this episode as well. Bit of Aussie representation there from Ensign Meredith, because we haven't really had. I was glad to see this character, because I don't think in the course of Star Trek we've had we've had Australian actors in Star Trek. Obviously, I can't remember the actress's name, but the one you guys might be able to remember the character's name in the episode of TNG when Picard was playing his flute in the Jeffries tube, and there was a female officer that there was a romantic love interest
Nella
kind of
Darren,
episode, and she was Nella Darren. That's the one. Yes. So that she was an Australian actress, but I think she was putting on a American accent, and obviously we had Evan Evagora playing Elnor in Star Trek Picard with an Australian accent, but he was a Romulan. Right. I don't think we've actually had an actual Starfleet, an Australian Starfleet officer before in Star Trek. So I was very pleased to see Ensign Meredith back again.
Yeah. Famously, was Tom Paris imprisoned in Australia at the beginning of Voyager?
Was he? No, that was New Zealand.
Oh, that was New Zealand. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know you guys hate it when we do that.
Yeah. New Zealand, bro. Yeah, choice, bro.
So yeah, I love the fact how absolutely gung ho Billups was in this episode, trying to do all the engineering repairs, and like. The rest of engineering is literally they're just scattering and everyone's running out the door because it's so dangerous. And Billups is just running towards all the danger and saying, "Oh, come on, Meredith, come on, let's sort this out." He wasn't fazed in the slightest, and she's kind of completely apprehensive about her involvement in this in these repairs. But no, that's good. You'll learn on the job. This is a good learning experience and all this sort of stuff. So I love that little dynamic.
It does tell you a lot about the Cali class that to get up to repair something on a second level, you need to use a rope as opposed to an elevator, which they would have on any other starship.
Old school.
That's
I'm just remembering that from the motion picture. The one that always sets me on edge is when they walk onto the bridge for the first time, and that officer's just standing on. It's effectively the size of a dinner plate, but this anti-grav. Like, it was like. All it's going to take is one wobble, and you're going to wallop your head off that console.
Yes.
You're going down. But even that, one of them,
Yeah, there is a guy like spotting him, right? Yeah.
No, there was. I don't think there was. I think because that thing he was standing on was literally the not much bigger than the size of like a dinner plate. Like it was big enough for his shoes to be on, and there was about this much room around the edge. And as you say, if that thing even tilted slightly, there's no OH&S department on starships that's overseeing their engineering fit outs.
Yeah, you just hope that they have a really good union in Starfleet.
Yes.
Can you imagine if red shirts were unionized?
Ooh,
Starfleet would be broke.
There would be.
That's why we don't use money in the future. We can't afford to.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Speaking of the first movie too, we also saw a bit of Vija being carved in the pumpkin by Rutherford, which was quite interesting. So
that's right. Yes,
bit of a Halloween sort of theme to this, the start of the episode at least as well. So yeah, I think I'm going to be doing Vija pumpkin carving come next October. Yeah.
Actually, there was a couple of solid Star Trek motion picture references this season. I thought the beginning of episode 10, where we saw the Klingons and the Fissure or whatever get hit with that, did sort of bring up sort of motion picture kind of vibes to me, with the whole Klingons being wiped out by the Vija cloud at the start of motion picture.
I think if I'm going to carve a pumpkin, I'm going to do Tendy's face on a gourd, like in the previous episode.
Oh no, hang on. Was it? No, it was.
It was a melon.
It was
right?
Tallinn.
Melon.
Wasn't it? Was it no melon? Or yes, no. It was those ginormous sized. Yes.
No.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, we can stop talking about Tallinn's giant melons now.
I was waiting for that.
The thing I love the most about that is just how much they absolutely knew what they were doing. They were like, yes, 100%. We as we penned this, we're giggling.
Of course.
I love it.
Low-hanging fruit.
The first episode of the season was airing, and I was there watching the opening
Yep.
credits. I genuinely choked on my coffee when V'ger turned up in the opening credits. Like every season, it just gets funnier and funnier. But V'ger, I was gone. Loved it.
This was a debate between my co-host and I. When does the Tholian web get added to that? Because I didn't see it in the first few episodes of the season, and at some point it's in there, but I don't remember which episode they added it.
It was there from the start. For me, it was the reverse. I saw the Tholian web, but I didn't pick up on the V'ger until the second episode because there's just so much going on in that frame, and they added so many things because obviously each season they added something different to that battle sequence shot. But I guess they had all these other things planned if Lower Decks had have gone for other seasons. They just figured, let's just throw them all in to this last season and we'll just fill it up with every single concept we had ever imagined we were going to do. So yeah, I think there was like three or four different editions or whatever this season. So it was very jam packed.
And definitely
the really brutal thing about this is that, sorry.
No, you get.
I was just going to say the really brutal thing about this is like everybody knows that Star Trek shows get good when they grow the beard, and Boimler just did it. Like, can you imagine what Lower Decks would have been if they'd actually had good seasons? like 6 through 8 or whatever would have been amazing.
Yes, normally the beard growing happens around season 3, but yeah.
Cisco's the same.
Yeah, but it's I think it's not a season thing; it's a number of episodes thing. So by season 3, they've done 75 episodes or whatever of the earlier shows.
I would accept that logic. Yep, I would accept that logic.
Yes.
I was going to say, don't feel bad about not seeing the Tholians. Apparently, I missed the Breen ship half of last season as well.
Right.
So yeah, because when you're looking so closely that you don't see. And that's what was happening. It's like, I see V'ger. Yeah. So what about these 3 things in front of you?
Oh, yeah. It's that experiment where people are passing the basketball and a gorilla walks through and you don't notice the gorilla. Must be something like that.
Also, like the way we almost got an explanation for why there are rocks that descend from the bridge ceiling during battle sequences.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't get a full explanation. It was Billups. He was trying to explain it, but I think he got cut off. But it was really interesting because whenever you see a battle sequence in Star Trek, there's always these rocks that just materialize somehow from the ceiling onto the floor. Where do they come from? This is a mystery. And I think we almost got the explanation, but we didn't quite get there.
I can explain it to you from a filmmaking perspective what it is.
I bet you can.
Normally what they use is pieces of cork blown out of like an air cannon. So it's meant just to simulate, chunks of shrapnel in an explosion, and they use cork because if it hits somebody in the face or whatever, it's soft enough that it doesn't actually hurt. So, but obviously, chunks of cork has the tendency to look like pieces of rock. So they obviously can't use. I suppose if they used pieces of grey painted styrofoam or something, you'd think that would be more consistent with a chunk of a panel or a console or something that's exploding rather than chunks of cork that look just like rock. But
I think styrofoam doesn't travel through the air the way that you would want it to.
Yes, this is true because it would probably float or do something weird that doesn't have any weight to it. So then it wouldn't look right. So I guess for that reason they have to stick with the cork, which just looks like chunks of rock.
Seán, how do you feel about sticking with cork as an Irishman?
It sounds right. I mean, listen, it could just be that somebody on the bridge has a drinking problem and is hiding all of the corks from the bottles of wine in the ceiling of the bridge. Yes. And behind consoles and everything. And listen, aren't you glad they did? Because cork won't hurt you. Now, if something else explodes. Now,
who is the problem drinker of Lower Decks? I mean, Carol Freeman kind of feels like she could be it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like, you know, because some of her like animated reactions this season have been fabulous, because they've been somewhere between "Are you kidding me?" and just pure like over the top. What now? Oh yeah, brilliant as well.
I don't feel it would be. I don't feel it would be Ransom, even though Ransom's a little bit of a party boy. I feel like he wouldn't overindulge, because that would then affect his physique. And his
can't afford the liquid calories.
Exactly. Yeah, he would say no. That's exactly. He would say exactly that. So
it would go against engaging the core. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's right. Yes. Alrighty, let's talk about Fissure Quest episode 9. Oh my god! Did we really think when this episode began, we would be getting not 1 but 5 legacy characters appearing in this episode? Harry Kim, Julian Bashir, Garrick, Lily Sloan, and DePaul. What were you guys' reaction to seeing this enormous lineup of former Star Trek characters appearing in this episode? Somebody who wants to start us off?
I mean, I'm a little bit speechless at how many we got, and like some really iconic ones. I love that they canonically cemented the relationship between Bashir and Garrick. Yeah. I was amazed that a real prestige actor like Alfre Woodard came back for something as funny as this. Jolene Blaylock does not need to come do little stunt performances, little cameos like this in Star Trek, and it was really great to hear her voice. And as I said before, I think Garrett Wang really brought the funny in this episode. He's like laugh out loud moments all the way through that are part of the writing, but also partly just how much he got it, and the way he played the different Harry Kims was great.
Absolutely.
Did you see? In the meantime, have you seen how Mike McMahon, the conversation about how Jolene Blaylock came back?
No, I'm curious.
No, I haven't, because my when I heard her voice in this episode, I would actually, out of all of these guest stars in this episode, her return to Star Trek was, for me, the most mind-blowing, because it kind of seemed like that after Enterprise finished, she completely distanced herself from Star Trek. She disappeared from acting almost altogether, and I just thought there was absolutely a snowflake's chance in hell for us ever to see T'Pol performed in any capacity by Jolene Blalock. She's just credited as Jolene, because I guess I think she had a couple of marriages and divorces and so forth, so she's just using her first name and not her last name. I'm not sure what the context for that was, but I was amazed.
I don't know what the context for not using her surname was. I think, as far as I know, I might be wrong. No, I think she's been married with her partner now for many years, and they have a foundation together. She is an activist, right. And I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it, or just like, if you can use the joke Jolene, use the joke Jolene. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I've been singing Dolly Parton ever since.
I was going to say the Dolly Parton reference, yeah,
100%. But no, it's a lovely story, basically. So I think sometimes, because I would have been like you, Nick, I would have thought, as the years went on, I thought the likelihood of ever seeing a genuine cameo, as opposed to, say, like an image cameo, but like a genuine cameo, that was getting less and less and less and less and less. But one thing to remember is that she was a massive Trekkie before she did Enterprise. She was a massive fan of the original series and, enjoyed Star Trek. And then Enterprise happened and years go by. But so Mike reached out to her with the script, or a version of the script, after she had appeared at Star Trek Day, which I think that image you pulled up there, I think that's her from Star Trek Day. So
that was
she had appeared,
I was quite surprised to see her at Star Trek Day. You know, from that's what that photo's from.
She does not do conventions. Really? She doesn't she doesn't show up in that way.
100%. 100%. And he sent her a script, which obviously became this one, with a letter effectively going, you know, here's what you mean to the franchise. Here's what we would love to do. And she replied and said, I'm a massive fan of Lower Decks. I'm in.
Oh, wow. So didn't need any convincing at all.
She was in. Yeah. And which I think was lovely, because I think based on, you know, some of the fallout from Enterprise and what was done with T'Pol as a character, I had inferred from that she had sort of washed her hands of Star Trek. But like, one of the things I was so glad about is that at least she enjoyed Star Trek still. You know, like, you know, you can maybe not have a fantastic time yourself on it, but at least you can still enjoy, you know, that you don't lose that. So that's what I inferred from that. So it was just lovely. And apparently, they had a fantastic time. And there's even more, I'm totally spoiling an interview we did, but apparently there's even more Archer to Paul jokes out there, but that might have to be relegated to special features on a DVD or a Blu-ray.
I was going to say,
I would love to see.
So there's a bit actually written in the script, or more sort of ad lib stuff that they
a little bit of both.
You know,
little bit of both. Apparently she was just hilarious and just came in and made a load of jokes and everything. So I would to have been a fly on the wall.
Oh man, so cool!
Absolutely. Yeah, what a treat that was, and also, I mean, to a certain extent as well. I mean, Lily Sloan is a character that, you know, I never thought, as you said, I never thought we'd see that character ever again in Star Trek either. You just sort of think, oh, yep, that's that's the appearance in First Contact, and the chances of any kind of return of that character would have been, you know, furthest from my mind as well. So that was a massive surprise as well.
I love the idea that she went on to work in Starfleet, and you know, like, is wearing the Enterprise uniform. I mean, obviously, like, in her universe, they invented dimensional drive and not warp drive. But you know, we've always talked about how that moment at the end of First Contact, where Zefram Cochrane leaves her behind to go make First Contact, is like such a bad move by him. Like, she built the damn ship. Like, she should get to go up there with him. And and I feel like this was a little bit of justice for Lily.
Rightly so. Sure. And also, I know it's not the ring ship Enterprise, but the ring ship is the Beagle, which was just like, oh, they're just giving us everything in this episode. This is amazing. But she I was a bit like Mariner. She spoke, and I was like, I know that voice. It did. It took me a second. I was like, hang on. Before they, like, are you Lily Sloan? I was just like, at this point, I was just glad I was sitting down, you know, because I was like, through. It's not that I never wanted her back. I just kind of felt First Contact time period, that story is done. And I'm very glad that they managed to do this as well. Because, oh no, it's just brilliant. Just so much. And Gareth Shear.
Oh yes, we finally get the bromance turning into an actual romance.
They're married and they're from different universes, and it's amazing.
Because there was always that there was always that kind of like dynamic in DS9, wasn't there? There was there's something about the little catch ups they would have, you know, over coffee or whatever, you know, at Quark's or whatever it was, you know. There you go. Hang on, there's some sparks going on here.
Well, that famous Andy Robinson interview, I think it's in the What We Left Behind, and he says, "Oh no, Garrick wanted to have sex with him. That's what that was." We are not being ambiguous about this. That's what it was. And then, obviously, you know, producers at the time were just like, it's 1993. I don't think we're doing this.
A little too hot for TV.
Yeah. Actually, one thing that I don't know whether this occurred to you guys or not when you were watching this episode, but it wasn't until I got to the end credits of this episode when I realized that Alexander Siddig did the voice for Bashir. There was something about the voice to me that didn't necessarily sound quite like the Bashir we remembered back in DS9 days. I for most of the episode thought, oh, it's another voice actor doing an approximation of Bashir because they couldn't get Alexander Siddig. So I was actually surprised when we got to the end of the episode. Oh, it was actually him that did the voice. Did any of you guys have that thought when you were watching it?
I totally did, until he said the name Garrick. The way he said Garrick made me think it was him. But yeah, he did sound different. I don't know what that was.
I think I know. He's got such a distinct way of particularly pronouncing Garrick. Yeah, it's kind of he's the only one who does ga as opposed to Ger. Even I question like on Gar or something like that. But yeah, but also, I mean, usually once a day I've got a DS9 on repeat. So I mean, that man's voice is just in here forever.
in the back of your brain. What did you think, David? Did you think the same thing, or were you, or did you know it was right from the start?
Look, it took me a little while to sort of get it, but yeah, he does have that distinct voice. It's just, I guess, a more older voice. I guess maybe his voice has aged a bit, or I don't know,
aged a bit, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it is. But for me, it was also interesting that he gets to play an EMH for the second time, because I think they were talking about this back in Dr. Bashir, I presume, that episode where they were considering him
to create him a template for EMH, yeah.
Yes, and then he gets to be one. So it was a good sort of like loop on that one.
Hark back,
And also like to see Curzon Dax. That was good to sort of see, Curzon sort of in his prime, I guess, in this alternative reality, and doing the Batleth and doing all the stuff, the crazy stuff that Curzon does that we never really got to see in DS9, but we used to hear about. So we got to see the old man in action.
Because Cisco always used to tell these crazy stories about his adventures with Curzon, but the only time we ever saw Curzon was at that very, very first episode where he was on his deathbed and he was a sort of a frail old man. So being able to see him swing a batleth and kicking ass or whatever, I think was.
I mean, you're right about old man, but do you remember how he died?
Oh, in this episode?
No. I mean what put him on his deathbed in Emissary? It was after a trip to Riza.
A trip to Riza?
Yeah. Vanessa Williams killed him.
Wow. Speaking of his death, in this, T'Pol takes the Katra of the Dax symbiont and takes the whole thing.
Yep.
And that is an untied off storyline in this. So, I mean, if we ever get a Lower Decks movie, hopefully we get to see whatever happened with that. It feels like something that they were planting so that they could pay off later, doesn't it?
I would love to see that.
Yes.
Does that mean that T'Pol becomes the net T'Pol Dax almost? Which I'm fine with. Yeah.
Give us T'Pol Dax.
I agree with what Chuck just said. I thought Jadzia might be back in episode 10 because they sort of almost set that up to be like, oh, okay, if he's dying and they've said, oh, well, the Curzon never died, therefore never got moved into Jadzia, and then obviously at the end of the episode he dies. He's thinking, oh, okay, does this mean that Jadzia is going to pop up as Chuck mentioned at the start of episode 10 to download the Katra out of T'Pol, but yeah, obviously that that was a bit too much to include in the last episode there.
I think much as I would have loved it, I think we all would have loved it. I do think they made the right call. Make episode 9 the cameo episode and have fun and go mad. and spend episode 10 and concentrate on your lower deckers, concentrate on your Cerritos crew. And I do think that was the right call. Now, having said that, they're like, oh, we have time for a Jedzia, though. Put her in it. Sorry.
Yeah, and I loved all the different variations of Harry Kim as well. I think I read an interview with Garrett Wong, basically saying he was a bit nervous about coming back to do it, and he asked, you know, Tawny and Jack and he called up Robbie McNeil and said, have you got any, you've been on the show before and everything, have you got any tips, you know, what am I meant to do, can you give me any insight? And Robbie McNeil said to him, if you think you're being too big, go even bigger. Like, you know, it's like if your performance, you think you're being massively over the top, you're not actually, and you need to push it like another 30% further than that, you know? So yeah, like, and I think Garrett sort of said, I thought I was just ridiculously overacting, but it was actually spot on, you know, exactly. He was right in the pocket where he needed to be to be Harry Kim on Lower Decks.
It was really funny.
Absolutely. And I think, does that just leave Roxanne Dawson left? Because, you know, Tim Russ was on Picard. You had Harry and Tom were both in Lower Decks. Obviously, Chakotay, the Doctor, Janeway, all on Prodigy. Yes. I know obviously Jennifer Leon doesn't act anymore, but and Ethan Phillips was in the very short Treks. So it's just Roxanne Dawson left to go. Yes. So okay, in the long Trek Lower Decks movie we're going to get. We have to put we wish really, really hard for a B'Elanna Torres cameo.
Yeah, although I think she pretty much moved into directing after she finished on Voyager, and I don't think was she approached? I think she might have directed one episode of Enterprise, or am I imagining that?
She definitely directed the episode.
She did a voice in it too. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm pretty sure she's retired from acting and just focusing on directing now. I think I'm actually surprised that she hasn't been, you know, put into service much like Jonathan Frakes to head up more episodes of Star Trek, unless she distanced myself from that and focus on other things. I think
she directed half of Foundation.
Yeah,
so like I think she's been busy. To be fair, have any of you had a chance to read Nana Visitor's book, Open a Channel, A Woman's Trek?
Not yet, no.
It's if you get a chance,
how to read or write.
I won't spoil anything, but she said like getting time with people, it's hard because particularly somebody like Roxanne Dawson, who is, I mean, you know, in the time it's taken us to have this chat, she probably directed 2 episodes. You know, like she's always working.
Yes.
So,
gosh, she had an early call time. Jeez.
I think as well, what's really given me hope that, you know, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. 10 years ago, I would have said you're never getting Jolene back.
Oh,
you know, and
no.
now look.
1 year ago, I would have said that.
I would have put money on that. I would have put money on that, and I would have lost. So, right.
I'm going to pose a question here. The technobabble in this episode. How did you guys find it? Because I got to say, I really struggled with the technobabble in this particular episode. It was great to see all the characters come in, but the technobabble was just so full on. How did you guys feel about that?
I definitely did think that the stuff when they explained the ship going through the rifts and creating duplicate rifts, my brain kind of switched off, and I just kind of went, just let it wash over me and just go with it. I wasn't going to read into it too much. I knew it was just technobabble overload, and I'll just keep rolling away with the story, and I'm not going to kind of worry about it too much, because if I do, my brain will explode.
We had Tawny Newsome on our show for our review, I think, of episode 5 this season, and she was talking about how when they were thinking about bringing Nicole Byer on to do a voice, she told them, like, you can absolutely get Nicole Byer. She'd be happy to do it, but do not give her character any technobabble because she will not. She will not deliver it plausibly. And I think that Tawny Newsome uniquely has that gear where she can like I thought it was really great to give her a role as an engineer for one episode so she could show that off. Like she can do crazy Star Trek technobabble and still be a funny character.
I think she's so good at it because there's just so much passion there for Star Trek as well. The thing I thought about the technobabble is that it's probably true because it was Dr. Aaron MacDonald came in and wrote it for them. So I mean, I ain't no scientist, but I'd say probably some of it is completely plausible because I was reading into it afterwards. And, Dr. Aaron was like, "Yep, that was."
I mean, it wasn't even in this episode. It wasn't even until the next episode that we learned that half of all bopples are corbed. So.
Finally, we're talking about the real things.
But no, this was a big treat. This episode, wasn't it? I mean, I think we knew that there was big cameos coming up and everything because we had already been teased the Harry Kim appearance or whatever in various trailers and so forth that preceded the airing of the final season. But yeah, look, I think, as you said before, Sean, I think I'm really glad that they focused on episode 9 as our massive cameo fest, which then allowed episode 10 for our lower deckers to shine in that last episode, and for it not to become a Enterprise finale part 2 that gets completely hijacked by other cast members from a different show, if you know what I mean.
Totally. It was also just the high watermark funniness-wise this season for me. Like, I thought it was just a 10 out of 10 episode in terms of the laughs.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd agree. Moving on, our last episode of the series, episode 10, the new Next Generation. Which, as we said, focused first and foremost on our crew of the Cerritos and having them shine. As mentioned before, we obviously started the episode with a bit of a maybe a homage to Star Trek: The Motion Picture, with the Klingons being attacked by the quantum fissure or whatever, and I did laugh quite a bit at them transforming into Star Trek Discovery Klingons from season 1. But let me ask you this question, guys: does this, if they transformed into the Discovery season 1 Klingons, does this mean the Discovery season 1 Klingons are from a completely different reality?
If they are, so is T'Pol.
I think the correct answer to this, Nick, is we do not talk about it. We do not talk about it.
Yes.
They're from the north.
Said,
They're from the north.
yes. Absolutely.
I like the revelation that there are different breeds of Targ, and some people have lap Targs.
The Chihuahua Targ, yeah. With the little, it was like a weird kind of almost like Chihuahua crossed with a pug, with the sort of like tongue hanging out and the bug eye, and
a lot of drool.
Targ, it's brilliant. Yeah.
The Targ only a mother could love.
We were talking about how if you have a Targ with a white coat on a Klingon ship, which is famously a rusty environment, there's lots of blood wine splashing around, Gach is probably hitting the floor. Like, there's somebody on the crew who has to keep this coat lily white, or their captain is going to, shove a mek'leth into their neck. And
who's the Targ washer?
Who's the Targ washer? Like, does that feel like a role of honor? Like, do they like stake their honor on keeping that coat clean, or is it like a position of ignominy?
It should be a position of honor, but I bet they give it to the lower deckers.
Yeah,
Seems like they would, right?
Absolutely. And yeah, this episode had obviously a lot of. I love the one thing I loved about this last episode is that all of our little kind of cameo appearances that we'd had throughout the course of the season, from Muck and Malore in the earlier Klingon episode, to Ensign Meredith, the Aussie engineer, to Ensign Ollie, the demigod. Everybody kind of came back in this episode and contributed in some way. The Cerritos strong mentality, where everybody's a little bit quirky. Everybody's not quite conventional, maybe Starfleet officers, but on the Cerritos, everybody works together. They get the job done, and it becomes a well-oiled machine as a result. I love that. I love that capacity that they brought everyone back in that sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think they set it up nicely, they executed it nicely, and it's for a season with as many standalones as this one had. I do think it did come together quite nicely at the end.
Yeah, they did a nice job. And I loved that big floppy lightning bolt slapping against the front of that Klingon ship.
Yes, and Ensign Ollie doing the what is it, the kami haha type,
kami ha.
That one. Yes, I know. I never know how to pronounce it. That one. You knew what I meant. Yes.
But how would they pronounce it in New Zealand? All the vowels are different.
David, you want to have a crack at that? No.
Oh no, I'll leave that one alone. Yeah, I'll stay with fucking chops.
Yeah, yes. There was obviously a lot. The one talking about episode 9, obviously being our cameo fest or whatever, and then obviously letting episode 10 be the crew shining episode. There was one thing that I did think was, and I'm not sure what you guys' impression of this was in this episode. Normally, in the writing of a TV episode or a movie or whatever, if you're writing something into the script, a line of dialogue that sets something up, normally that line of dialogue in some capacity pays off at the end of the episode. And we obviously had moments in this episode where we have people saying, well, the Enterprise is en route, it's on its way, it's coming, but you guys have to solve the problem, and step up and do this, because even though the Enterprise is on its way, it's not going to be arriving in time. So, and then obviously Freeman references the Enterprise as well earlier in the episode. So you kind of, I don't know about you guys, but I started thinking, oh, okay, does this mean we're going to be getting an Enterprise cameo? And then obviously at the end, when we've got the portal and everything open, we have the Enterprise E parked right next to the Cerritos, but not only the Enterprise E, but also the USS Titan. So the Enterprise was there, the Titan was there. We get this line dropped in the script early on saying the Enterprise is on its way, but yet we obviously didn't get a Picard cameo or anything, or a Riker cameo or anything like that at the end. And I guess my feeling on this was, I'm glad that the Lower Decks crew got to shine, but I did feel like they set us up for, like, we're just going to get a 20-second moment. Picard arriving saying, Cerritos, sorry we're a bit late, but geez, you guys did a great job. You're exemplary Starfleet officers. You can all be very proud of what you've achieved. Job well done. I'm Jean-Luc Picard. See you later. That would have been the cherry on top for me. Did you guys have that expectation as well when they set up all the Enterprise stuff and we saw the Enterprise stuff, or did you not care about that at all?
I mean, this being Lower Decks, I don't think anyone would say job well done. I think he would have, busted them down a notch, Like, you guys did not do a great job saving the universe, and there's a lot to clean up. Get to it.
Oh my God, there's a big open hole in space. Well, at least this is the only time this is ever going to happen. I will be honest. When he said it, when that, the Starfleet officer said Enterprise is en route, I did think, maybe. Funnily enough, by the end of the episode, by the time it actually appeared, I had stopped thinking we were going to get a cameo. I had kind of at that point, I think I'd not moved past it. I mean, I certainly wouldn't have said no, particularly to a Captain Worf who then accidentally flies it into another ship or something like that. Well, it wasn't his fault. But yes, first mentioned the Enterprise E, I thought, you could have said any ship in the fleet, and you've chosen the Enterprise E. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this being on the kind of epic scale of one of the Star Trek films, you do often find at the beginning of those that the Enterprise is the only ship in the quadrant that can respond to whatever emergency is happening. And
no one else is in range. It has to be you. Yes.
Yeah, they needed to write something that would explain why the Enterprise can't just deal with this.
I love that. Just like say if we on Tawny's new show, the one that's touch would be set in the 25th century. I want like an original Constitution class from the original series to rock up and be like, right, we're here. We were told we were the only ship. It's just taken us this long to get here.
Better late than never.
What about you, David? Was your expectations set up in that regard, or didn't it occur to you?
Look, probably a bit like Sean. I sort of noticed it, and then it sort of went out of mind a bit. But look, it wouldn't have hurt to have had a good, Picard and Riker moment. That wouldn't have hurt. But would it have detracted maybe from the end somehow? I don't know. I think I would have liked to have seen it. I think a lot of people probably would have liked to have seen it.
I did make this comment in my review of the episode, but a lot of people on the in the comments have gone, it wouldn't be Picard, it would be Captain Worf. And it's like, well, hang on. They've never put an actual date on when Worf took over captaincy of the Enterprise E from Picard. All we know is that Picard left the Enterprise to go and command I think it was the Odyssey, to manage all of the Romulan evacuation and relocation effort. But they've never kind of set a star date as to when that actually handover took place. But I think it's somewhere between 2381 and 2384 or something like that, which is basically the window where this episode kind of takes place. So, I mean, could have been either, but it's up to interpretation, I suppose.
Exactly. There's nothing presented which contradicts Captain Worf. Do you know what I mean? Like, so we could just as easily say, yep, that's Worf captaining the Enterprise E in that scene, and there's nothing in that scene which contradicts that.
Yes, correct.
There we go. It's tenuous, but that's what headcanon does.
It's workable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's right. And then he got too close to the portal, ruined the Enterprise E, but didn't destroy it. I maintain it's not been destroyed. It's just at a shipyard somewhere.
Tough little ship.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, compared to the Odyssey. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the ending of this episode, did have sort of shades of the DS9 being in orbit of the Bajoran wormhole or whatever, and we've got a similar setup going on here, obviously with Starbase 80. What was their explanation again in terms of why it had to be Starbase 80? Because it was too low. It was so low tech that it wouldn't be affected by the changes in quantum realities or something to that effect. Or I'm trying to remember what the actual reason they gave why it had to be Starbase 80.
Tachyons, something to do with the older tech wouldn't be affected by the tachyons, because they were made a
something
gag about.
Yeah.
It was a bit like season all about redemption for the like loser characters and people who have been unfairly maligned, and so Starbase 80 is no different.
Exactly, I love it.
It gets a new lease on life, and maybe some new uniforms.
Yeah,
that'd be exciting.
Dear fan
Yeah, because I
home,
see
Go to
that-
that uniform
that-
adding
shop.
it to your model
they were
collection.
still using Enterprise uniforms, weren't they? On there, they hadn't even though the interior decor for Starbase 80 looked like the interior of a Constitution class from the 60s. They were all wearing Enterprise uniforms, so
half
They're the
owned by
blue and green,
aliens from the Next Generation as well. Brilliant.
that's
I love
that's
that.
true.
Uh,
Yes. Yeah.
Well, there was a
And
good
obviously-
gag that I actually missed this in the Starbase 80 episode, but there was a good gag at that uniform shop that there's this massive stack of red shirts.
Red
They're all
shirts, yes.
uniforms from because I was there like, oh my god, that's so dark.
Yes. Yes.
Where we
Yes,
need that
every
union.
single uniform in that shop had a phaser burn or a stab mark or a hole through it or whatever the case was. Indeed.
What about Relga? She's sort of a bit connected in terms of family there, like a bit like the Duras family. I sort of felt like
That's what I
there
thought it was
seems
going to be. I thought she was going to turn out to be a Duras relative.
Yeah, there seemed to be like a lot of bros and sisters that could sort of just jump in there and continue on the blood feud. But yeah, it would have been interesting to have seen a Duras connection there. That's for sure. Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
she's
look,
like
I think
daughter of Toral.
Yes.
And also for a minute, I thought I saw we saw a Klingon Burrell and Cavort class in the same shot. Where we've never seen. So that's the bird of prey. So we've got the scout version, which we've originally seen. And then, of course, we get that cruiser version, which is just an enlarged version. And I thought we actually saw these in the same scene, but I think it was a different cruiser, actually. It just looked like an enlarged bird of prey, but yeah.
I think I might be totally wrong. I took that the big cruiser was a hybrid of the D5 from Enterprise and a standard bird of prey, just bigger, because they have the D5 head on it.
Yes.
But I might be. I think the other birds are probably the same size, but I mean, I missed two of them exploding, so don't take my word for either.
I love
Yes.
the gag that the Klingons never changed their ship design because they just want them to look like big
That
dumb
was
birds.
hilarious. Yes.
Oh no, it's a big
Yeah.
big dumb bird coming in.
Yeah. It went from barge to spaceship, and then there was like no changes after that.
Yes. That's right. Yes.
Kind of a dark
yeah, that
joke
was-
as
I
well,
did-
a literal barge of the dead. It's like, oh,
Yeah. Yes.
Like Shax and the massacre at Tempasa levels of joke here. Like,
Yeah.
I love the fact. Obviously, we got when the exterior changed. Obviously, they cycled through all the different bridge interiors as well. So when they were a sovereign class, they the interior matched the Enterprise E and everything. And when they were the Terran Empire, obviously we had the Terran Empire logos all over the bridge, and everything suddenly became dark and more moody. So I love that attention to detail. That was great as well.
I think the Titmouse animators really pulled out all the stops visually in these last two episodes, especially, and redesigning every set in this art style was just so cool to see.
Yeah, it was. They obviously put a lot of labor of love into this last episode. Although we didn't get, even though the exterior flashed to a Galaxy class at one point, we didn't get to see the interior at that particular moment when it became a Galaxy class. But it was a very short-lived transition, that one.
it's good. Also, big up for the Oberth. Sorry, I know that shit.
Yes.
Hate it. I love the Oberth.
Yes. Yes, it's not the most attractive starship, but it's got a long and true history, I suppose.
Any ships you were surprised to see them not turn into?
Jaeger, because they've that kind of sense of humor.
Yeah.
So something really random. You know what I mean? Like the fact that they did the Freedom class, that was fun. That was cool. You know?
That was a deep
Like,
cut. Yeah.
That was a deep cut. But yeah, something like, I mean, yeah, if they do, yeah, just like Jaeger, because God, that shit was horrible. I don't mean, I'm sorry if it's your favorite ship. I really am. But yeah. any of the
Someone's shattered by that remark, Sean. Someone's shattered by that remark somewhere.
I'm sorry.
I don't know where.
Christmas.
I don't know where, but they are somewhere.
We haven't seen a Nebula class in such a long time. I thought that would have been fun.
Oh yeah.
But you know what? I'd love as well, just because the deep cuts, do a Phoenix, do it with the oval bit on top. Really mess with people's heads. You're like, that's wrong. No, it's the first one.
Yeah, well, it could have changed into like the Last Arena class from Picard or something, or that would have been a bit out there.
An HMS Bounty confused the Klingons.
Oh, yes. Yes. And what did you guys think of Rutherford losing his implants and stuff at the end of the episode? One thing I kind of has occurred to me throughout the course of the 5 seasons of Lower Decks is they made the choice to give Rutherford the ocular implant, but do you think they really utilized it in a way, that much like Geordie's visor or whatever, did they really take the full advantage of his implant, or do you think it was kind of like, he had it for the entire run of the show, and then at the end he had it removed? What was the point in having it the whole time? Did he really get the benefit? Do you know what I mean? Like, was the implant really put to its full use? I suppose I should say, for the whole series.
Yeah, I think I understood it to be something that he needed because of some injury at the beginning of the series. So I didn't quite.
That's what I assumed too.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure, like how it could be removed, but I mean, look at him. What a hunk without that chunk of metal on the side of his face.
Yeah. I just assumed, as you probably did too, Ben, that it was much like Detmer from Discovery, how she had the implant, that it was some sort of accident or whatever, and it was necessary, But if he could have had it removed at any time throughout the course of the show, and they sort of never really used it in the same sort of sense that they used Geordie's visor, then kind of why did he have it?
I felt that of everything in this episode, this was not shoehorned in but rushed.
Okay.
Like
did this get it down in your review?
It didn't get it down, but I did have a moment where I looked at the down counter and I looked at the camera and I went, it's not quite enough for a down. There might have been some last episode goodwill going on. Because suddenly the implant doesn't connect to the Cerritos after 5 seasons.
Yeah.
Like that. Even if they say, if they, I mean, maybe I have missed something, but if they'd set it up that he kept upgrading, but the Cerritos didn't, then that might have kind of led to, right, I get it. But I was with you. I thought it was an injury. I thought that's why he had the implant to begin with. And considering, I think 3 or 4 times now we've seen him take his implant. I was like, stop pulling the side of your head off. Rutherford, surely that's going to have a bad.
And there's all yucky, sticky. There was all kind of sticky kind of muscle tissue and
And there's wires that go deeper in.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, stop lobotomizing yourself, Rutherford. Stop it.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that moment in was it the end of season 1 when the shuttle blew up or whatever, and it ended up floating in space or whatever, and Badgie somehow got into it or whatever it was. Yeah. Like there was chunky bits of flesh and all kind of stuff hanging off that. So it's not just like a little pulling the Band-Aid off. That's some serious integration that he.
Imagine the smell.
There's got to be easier ways to pair your Bluetooth, folks. That's for sure.
You know, like when you're using your laptop for ages and it heats up. When he walks past, you just smell barbecue.
Yeah, that's low and slow. That's what you want.
Yes.
That's a simmer cook.
Oh.
That'll be ready in 8 hours.
Yes. And I gotta say, I did love the bit at the end when we saw the group of women all huddled around the Sub Rosa ghost lantern or whatever. At the end. It's like, okay, are they all what are they exactly doing here? Are they all kind of queuing up to have ghost sex, or what exactly is this party they've got going on in this room?
I mean, I'll tell you one thing. Felicia Howard never had a bad day in her life. Okay? Ronan made sure of that. So take from that what you will. Yeah. So they might be about to have a bloody amazing time.
In many ways, Beverly Crusher murdered Ronan in cold blood.
100%. Oh, Beverly's the villain in that episode. There's no question.
Like, what? Like, did he technically do anything wrong?
No, I don't think so. You know?
Last time I checked, seduction is not a crime. And these ladies seem like willingly being seduced by this candle.
Kinda. Are we reading this wrong? You know what I mean? Like,
Yes. I don't think we are.
What's the one lady wearing? Is that like a slanket or like a...
like a onesie kind? No, like one of those sort of hoodie onesie kind of blanket things with the hood on them. Yeah,
she looks very cozy. What's she doing under there?
Is this the anaphasic lower decker from the Starbase 80 episode? Is that where this creature lives in this candle now? So oh my goodness, have they actually just locked them into some sort of servitude? Is this actually much darker than we thought?
Wow. This is really horrific to contemplate.
Yeah. Well, they could be worshipping the micro Voyager that was in that previous episode earlier in the season. But maybe... No, that didn't get resolved. Actually, someone mentioned that in the comments a bit earlier, actually. So we'll never know what happened to that.
Oh dear. Oh yeah. I just hope someone didn't like accidentally lean on it. You know, it might have made their month of hell even worse.
Indeed,
absolutely.
Indeed.
But I was hoping those ladies would have been maybe summoning Space Koala, because Space Koala didn't make a final appearance that I saw.
We did get an appearance from the guy. We got an appearance from the guy who ascended to the different to the koala's plane of existence, but because he fell out of a portal in the sky in sickbay in behind Ta'ana.
Who doesn't even
while
blink?
She was doing some, it doesn't even blink. And he kind of looked, he was all sort of smoking and, didn't kind of explain why he'd been sent back to Earth. But yeah, you're right, David. I thought we would have got some sort of cameo by the Space Koala, but we never saw them.
I'm happy with that staying a mystery,
You can have too much of a good thing.
I would love, I don't think it will, but hey, I would have said the same thing about Deline coming back. I want it to get picked up in another show. Just even a reference, something, just of there be the cult of the koala. What does the cult of a koala look like in Starfleet Academy in the 32nd century? Do you know what I mean? Like people walking around with a koala armband or something, you know?
You could have just had when the portal in the sky opened up and I kind of fell out of it. You could have just had the koala's head pop out of the portal before, and then it pops back up again.
Like
as
Ceiling
the
Cat
closed.
is watching you masturbate.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have done that. They could have gone that direction with it. I feel like there's so many like scenes in Discovery where like people are like going through some kind of crazy portal. They could just slip a koala into that, like edit it in like now. Like somebody will find it when they're binging on Paramount, you know.
Give it a week.
And of course, at the end, we got Freeman going off to like her alternate universe self, going off to be in charge of Starbase 80, and then we have obviously Ransom taking up the captaincy of the Cerritos with Boimler and Mariner as co-first officers.
Provisional.
for the ship. Well, provisional. Yes, he is gonna mess with them. Something shocking, I think, and he's gonna play them off against each other, and they're not gonna have an easy ride. I think under him.
No. Well, then again, a little bit of interpersonal conflict never did anyone any harm.
Yep, absolutely.
Brilliant.
Did you guys think this was a good transition or whatever for the end of the series, seeing Freeman leave and Ransom get bumped up and so forth?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought I thought his captain's catchphrase was absolutely perfect. You know, and I think this may have been another place where they could have been tempted to have a cameo, bring somebody else in to captain the ship that was from a different show. But it was this was a love letter to this cast and this crew, and I thought it was perfect.
We even get one last okie dokie from Rutherford as well, which I loved. I mean, yeah, this scene just made me smile.
Yeah, after a decidedly un-okie dokie Rutherford for 2 episodes, getting it back at the end was a relief.
Yes, but yeah, I think this last episode was, it rounded off the series well. I think it did a good job of, bringing back all the little cameo appearances and stuff from other characters that had appeared in previous episodes. I think it was a noble rounding off of this series. What did you guys think?
Yeah, it feels open-ended and finished, but not finished in such a way that I think we'll never see another thing. But I think they've parked it well. Maybe is a good way of looking at it. But there's so many more stories to tell. Please give us long treks. Please give us something else, Although here's a potentially controversial thing. I don't need to see a live action Lower Decks. We did that in Strange New Worlds. It was a lot of fun and I loved it. I don't need a live action spin-off. I leave.
That being said, if they did announce they were going to do a follow-up Strange New Worlds episode with Tendi and Rutherford, you wouldn't say no, would you?
No, I'd down it into oblivion. That would be just a tritium down for everyone. No, I'm going to stick to what I said now. Of course, I wouldn't turn my nose up at anything.
You'd go into commentating on Star Wars at that point, right? You'd walk away from all of it.
They're crapping all over the legacy. Why isn't everyone a Skywalker?
Why are they ruining my childhood?
Yeah. Oh, yes. That's
yes. Got a super. Thanks, Sean O'Sullivan. Thank you so much, mate. Much appreciated. Captain Ransom. Not again. I'd much prefer Captain Jack. Captain Jack.
I see.
Ransom. Captain Jack Sparrow.
I mean, the last Captain Ransom.
Captain Jack. I'll write Doctor Who Captain Jack. Is that the reference we're talking about?
Well, Captain Ransom. Equinox.
Yeah,
Equinox of Rudy Ransom. So, I mean, the last Captain Ransom, he got there in the end. You're a bit of a moral detour.
And actually, I agree with Chuck. Chuck, I wanted a T'Lyn and T'Pol scene because we obviously saw T'Pol on the station at the end. That would have been nice, wouldn't it? I think just to have a little bit of an interaction between T'Pol and T'Lyn.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, I would also have loved to have seen that.
To finish off the stream today, we'll have a little bit of a chat about Section 31. Obviously, now that Lower Decks is finished, our next Star Trek outing will be the Section 31 movie that airs on January 24th. And we got a bit more of a look at what we're up for in Section 31 with the full trailer that dropped a couple of weeks ago. And let's play a little game of speculation in this. There's a bit of imagery and so forth came out as part of our trailer for this. Who do we think now? And this is also a bit of a timeline question. So obviously, we got these guys pop up in a shot in the trailer. Now, does this mean because this race was at the end of that original series episode, the Chironians? Chiron? Is it Chironians or is it the Chiron or?
I had a look on Memory Alpha, and they just have inhabitant of Chiron. So I think it's up to you, like Chironian. Yeah, I don't see an issue with Chironians.
Okay. If no one objects, I'm going to say Chironians.
Right.
Do we think because the two guys on the Enterprise with Kirk in that episode, they were, correct me if I'm wrong, meant to be the last surviving members of their race. So does that mean that Section 31 in this particular moment takes place before original series, or do we think this is just a bit of a hiccup in canon?
I would, in terms of when it's set, I'm just remembering that Rachel Garrett is a character. So we know she was captaining the Enterprise C in the 2340s, I think it was. So for her to be alive and, as I say, at least in her 20s, it's 24th century anyway. Okay, so that's going to definitely put it after Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. Actually, when we did the trailer breakdown, I asked more or less the same question. It's like, well, when is this set and everything? And I suppose people raised the fair point of like, yes, they were supposed to be the last two, but did anyone actually take a head count?
Yeah, okay. One slip of the cracks, you reckon?
Didn't we find out that she couldn't travel in time because she'd already traveled universes? And we
she had to go
there's
back
that whole
to
thing
more
about
who
died a very painful death because he was both a time traveler and a universe jumper.
Yeah, I think they established that it was the distance from your original starting point that was the problem. That the further you got away from it, the worse it got for her. So if she could move back closer to a point in time where the universes were closer together,
and she seems like such a nice lady. You hate to hear about anything bad happening to her. You know?
Yeah, indeed. Good for the community. Yeah.
Is this the movie where Star Trek takes like a hard right turn and endorses fascism? It's good, actually.
Yes.
You will like
it.
What,
actually, we really used to paint the Borg as a bad thing, but Picard's finale suggested actually it's quite lovely in the collective, and it's like bliss, which is the only time that's ever been suggested.
Wouldn't joining your biological and technological distinctiveness with our own be a good thing, actually?
Public service announcement.
Well, I suppose Jurati seemed to be having an okay time, I guess, but
Yeah, but now she has the same job that Cisco and Carol Freeman wound up with, which is Hole Watcher.
Yeah, kind of.
Yes. Starfleet resume, Hole Watcher number one. Yeah,
it's an elite crew that get to do it, but.
There's a line there somewhere, but I won't go there.
There is. Moving right along.
All right, here's our next part of speculation 101. Okay, what do you got? Throw it out there first. What do we reckon this is? What do we reckon this thing is?
What that looks like is the device in the Romulan Senate at the beginning of Nemesis that melts everybody.
The Thaleron radiation grenade thing. Yes.
Thaleron, yes. How could I forget?
Yeah. God's sake, Ben. But I like that theory.
The top is a little bit different because it doesn't quite look like it blossoms open in the same way. But it also has distinctly imperial the filigrees look like her armor when she's in Emperor getup, right?
Definitely based on the two trailers, because there's definitely a shot of her as Emperor Georgiou. yeah, I think this is
Yes.
I think this is mirror universe.
Yes, the trim on their uniforms and so forth is very similar to the little gold engraving and so forth on the side of this. So yeah, I reckon you might be onto something there. So you reckon some sort of Terran Empire artifact, perhaps?
Yeah. Do you guys think we'll get Captain Killy in Section 31?
Oh, now I really hope we do.
Yeah.
You've put that out there now. We need this to happen.
It would be really cool. I mean, Mary Wiseman is still she's around, like she's hanging around at Star Trek headquarters. And the name Captain Killy implies that they do have some fun in the mirror universe, you know, like Captain Killy is fun. Oh, your name is Tilly? Well, we should call you Killy. Like we kill people.
Silly Captain Killy. Yeah, I wiped out a colony. Sorry, what? Of course, I mean, I'm going to keep saying the word Prime Lorca over and over again until it happens.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Not that I think he's the box. The box is actually Prime Lorca. That's it. That's my theory.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. He's in the box. It's a transporter buffer, and he's trapped in it. Right. Oh, he's the box. Right. Okay. Yeah. All right. What about this bloke? What do you think his deal is?
He took body modification.
We were talking before about Rutherford's. We were talking about Rutherford's implant before. This guy's kind of gone a bit over the top. It looks like he's almost got like the head thing, like what's his name from Guardians of the Galaxy? Is it Yondu, who had the thing in his head that controlled his arrow or whatever.
I was gonna say he reminds me a little bit of the Saul Rubinek character in The Most Toys. Like,
actually,
I mean, it's like it is to that what Discovery Klingons are to TNG Klingons, in my head.
The tattoos on his head don't ring any bells, but he's got he has got some holes in his nose or something that which look a bit like what you were just describing from the guy from what was it? No, was it? They had the character at right at the start of the Lower Decks season, the one that Tendi was trying to seduce or whatever.
Yeah.
Had the collector guy or whatever who had the holes in his face.
Character's gone out of my head now. The name, I mean, but yeah, you can always picture him because it's just like, why'd you do that to yourself? What are you doing? Who decided this was a good idea? Then again, I'm sure I sound like every parent of any kid who's ever got a piercing ever. Yeah, I was like, what did you do that for? Why have you done that to yourself? That's just silly. It's prescription.
Yes. Sean said Prime Lorca needs to prove he is not a Musk fan.
Yeah, the clues were all there that he was Terran. Yeah.
Yes. I don't recognize the thing, the little brooch thing he's got on his lapel. It looks like a. This is like a little stick figure man without any legs.
It's probably just how Terrans create the stick figures. It's like, try and walk now. He also doesn't look very happy.
Well, in the trailer or whatever, he was getting punched in the face by was it Alok Sahar, I think is the character's name, the leader of the Section 31 team. So yeah, I can understand that. But although, mind you, punching this guy in the face, I would imagine would hurt your fist significantly with all that crap going on.
There's some risk there. He might be unhappy because he's wearing like what seems to be a plastic suit. I mean, he's probably getting a bit hot, you know, in that plastic.
It would be very sweaty under there. He's not going to smell the freshest, I think.
No,
be worse than that.
Yeah. Yes. Mark Hawkman, the logo reminds me or Orion writing. Some of the things hanging off his face are kind of like a lot of those Orions in Enterprise had a lot of metal hanging off their face, but not quite the same as this bloke, and he's not obviously not green. So
maybe he's an Orion, maybe like a different type of
then he'd be
Orion.
blue, wouldn't he?
An Oreo.
He'd be
an
blue
Oreo
with
or
yellow
something.
eyes or
They
whatever.
prefer azure, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, don't be racist, David.
Oh, please, you have not.
Yeah, sorry. How could I? Yeah.
Yes. All right,
Just
what's our
Sean's comment
next
there
one
reminds me
here?
of Bebop
What-
from the
what-
Turtles. Brilliant.
What about this guy? Any speculation on who this chap might be?
I think the last
Star
time we
Trek
saw
wasn't
him in a
doing that.
film was locked in a trunk in Pulp Fiction.
Bring in the GIMP. I thought he looked a bit like the Rocketeer, actually.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
But I'll go with the GIMP. I think the GIMP one's better.
Yes.
It could be the way the light is hitting it, but it does look very leathery, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
Someone's going to go
Section
medieval on his
31 is
ass.
just an inherently kinky organization. I think that, you know,
I believe it.
they are the
I
black
would-
leather wearers of Starfleet or the Federation or whatever. Who knows exactly how that affiliation is dealt with.
Sloan was wearing the black leather, and even I think was it Leland and
Yeah.
co whatever in
Yep.
Discovery season 2 we had the leather as well, so it's clearly popular.
Mm-hmm.
He does have the top of his mask there has got sort of ridges that does it have a sort of slightly Klingon
Klingons
vibe to
hate it when
that-
you do that, though. They're like, my culture is not your costume, Gimp.
Appropriate me, please.
Yes, because they did it, didn't they have Klingons with helmets with ridges in the forehead or whatever in Star Trek? Was it Star Trek the 2009 first one, or was it Into Darkness where they had Klingons with helmets and they had indentations in the helmets or something?
Yep, 100%. Yeah, the scene was cut from 09, but you are right; they were in both, and it's exactly it. They have that helmet there with the ridges on them. So I mean, I would love this to be the thing none of us expect is actually a crossover with the Kelvin timeline. I would love that because no one's expecting it. And actually imagine that, kind of like you've Giorgio doing her thing, and you've got Section 31, and also Zachary Quinto. What?
Yes. What?
Sure.
Wow.
We know Section 31 exists in the Kelvin universe, so yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
That would be very interesting. And obviously we've got Rachel Garrett. What do you guys think? Because obviously it seems like what we're getting in terms of the trailer, that Rachel Garrett is kind of like going to be the conscience of the team, like the one that makes sure that the body count is kind of kept at a minimum or respectable level, and that things are kind of maybe done in an above board kind of way. But is this going to be a significantly different departure from obviously how she ends up in yesterday's Enterprise, do you think?
I think yes, for a couple of reasons. One is that the style of television has changed so much since then, so I bet it's going to be a very different take on the character. But that's not the end of the world. I mean, she's obviously younger. She has time to grow into that character. And yeah, because she's the Starfleet rep. So I'd say, although can anyone else imagine telling Giorgio, no, please don't kill that person?
No, I don't think that would go down too well with Giorgio. I think that's kind of like, that's just how she gets going in the morning, isn't it?
How she rolls.
She's there to be like, listen, please don't shoot people in the head, shoulder, kneecap, something, just not the head.
Yeah.
Just maim.
Exactly, yeah, the Starfleet way.
Yes.
I do like Casey Roll, though, an awful lot. I loved her in Hannibal, so I am looking forward to seeing her in this.
I think I've read some stuff where she said that she did, watch yesterday's Enterprise, many times just to kind of, work on some nuances or whatever that were perhaps, in keeping with how Trisha O'Neill, who played
Yes.
Garrett in the Enterprise episode. Yeah, just so that you can see. I can see how there's that little nuance or whatever of how she played the part. Ended up where she was or whatever. So I think that will be interesting to see just what we can glean from Casey Roll's performance in terms of how she's going to link that to Trisha O'Neill's performance. What else? And that is my last photo. So obviously section 31 coming at the end of January. Any other like hopes, dreams, speculation or anything like that you guys want to throw out there in terms of the section 31 TV movie?
I want it to be fun, because it's got all of the look of kind of early Discovery. And I do think some of what early Discovery was missing was that sense of fun. So I think if you're going to do a spy kind of thriller or something Mission Impossible-y, you can do that and still have a laugh. So that's what I would like to see, especially because it is the 14th Star Trek movie. It's kind of funny because obviously it's coming out in a different way in a kind of a different format and everything. But yeah, I want to be able to be like, yeah, what movie do I want to watch tonight? I want to stick on Section 31.
I really wonder about the business decision behind that because, like, Michelle Yeoh is a huge movie star now. Like, I mean, she's always been a huge star, but I think since her role on Discovery has become much more of a household name, with the success of Everything Everywhere All at Once and other stuff that she's done, it kind of feels like they should have gone for a theatrical release on this one just based on that. So
I think she would. She is a draw.
I think she puts butts in seats.
Yeah. You're right. It does surprise me that if you've got an Oscar-winning actress, and a recent Oscar-winning actress too, why you wouldn't lean into that and as you said, maximize the exposure by putting it in cinemas,
And like the imagery in this trailer makes me think that they've gone really big and epic in the scope. Like it looks like it's something that would be really fun to see on a big screen. And I love that it's such a big swing. It's such a different kind of movie than they've otherwise made. And maybe that's what's behind it, is that they're worried that this isn't like how you introduce Star Trek to a general audience, which is probably what they're always thinking about when they release a feature film. Is like half the people in this are not going to be prior fans of Star Trek, so we need to like a little bit tell them what Star Trek is as part of every film.
I guess it is a more nuanced concept, the whole, and probably, as you say, it requires, as you say, more than the average level of explanation to the people who aren't necessarily hardcore Star Trek fans.
Yeah.
I think as well as with all of the ongoing saga of the sale, we're in, we're out, we're in, we're out, shake it all about. I do think that, I mean, think about it. We got the trailer a month out from the film. It's been an interesting journey in terms of marketing. So I don't really know what the thinking is behind releasing it direct to streaming, because that suggests to me that you're releasing it to the established Trek fans, which is wonderful for us. But is that going to bring in new viewers? Is that going to put new bums on seats? I don't know. I want it to. I'm going to push it as much as I can, and kind of like I think we all are. We're all going to talk about it, but because if it doesn't do well, they're not going to be inclined to do another movie. and they're not going to be inclined to take another swing. So that's where I'm kind of like, at the very least, let's everyone watch it. Everyone in the world just watch it. You know?
Well, wasn't there a case of some other film? Wasn't there a case of some other film? Was it? I think it might have been a Marvel film or something where they actually released it on Disney Plus and at the cinemas at the same time. Or am I? Wasn't there something like? Was it like Black Widow or something? Or I thought there was some other film where they actually did a simultaneous theatrical release and dropped it on streaming at the same time. Am I remembering incorrectly? No, nothing comes to mind. I thought it was one of the Marvel films. I can't remember which one, and I think it was around the. I think it was around the pandemic era or whatever, where people weren't necessarily allowed to go to the cinema due to lockdowns and whatnot. So that they still put it in cinemas, but they also did a streaming release as well. So if
June maybe.
I think it was earlier than that. My memory. I can't remember what it was, but for some reason I think it was a Marvel film, and I think it was, probably somewhere in 2020 or 2021.
Yeah.
If it's 2020, I think it might be Black Widow, but I don't think Black Widow actually made it to theaters. I think it was only Disney Plus, because then there was the whole conversation afterwards about what happened with Scarlett Johansson and contracts and things were promised that weren't there. I don't know the details of it. I just know that there was fallout from only delivering it on Disney Plus. So I just saw, just a really hopeful comment there. Star Trek has an unlimited budget. I wish I lived in your world. I really do. Sorry, comment to the wouldn't that be lovely? But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously a horse of a different color. This film, it is definitely different from certainly any film we've seen before. So it might benefit. I mean, it might not work as well on a big screen.
Well, I think that was the main thing that people were commenting on when the various trailers dropped, is that just how little visual cues there were in the trailer that led you to know I'm watching something from Star Trek here. You mute the trailer and you watch the trailer muted without any audio, and there's not a lot in it that which you can latch onto and go, oh, yep, I recognize that as Star Trek. And that was a criticism I think a lot of people were kind of talking about. That being said, maybe they're holding off a lot of, visual Easter eggs or whatever that they keeping under their hat for a surprise in the actual movie when it comes out. Who knows? But I think, as you said, Sean, I think it is going to be fun. I get a sense that Sam Richardson's character Quasi is going to be a fun character in the show. He was good value on most of the shows I've seen him in. Particularly, I think I remember him most memorably in Veep. As I can't remember his character name, Splat or something in Veep, which was very funny. But yeah, I think he'll be a good character.
I do like him as well.
Yeah. So any final thoughts on the show? Is everyone looking forward to it, or is it like, I'll watch it, but I'm not massively excited, or are we all excited to see it?
I think it's going to be very interesting at minimum to see how they try and thread the needle of a Philippa Georgiou that is meant to be a sympathetic character, and how they do that in a movie that is about like the darkness that undergirds Starfleet and serves to do all the dirty tricks that enable other people to observe the Prime Directive or whatever, and also be a fun romp. Like that. They're serving a lot of masters with this film, and if they pull it off, it'll be quite the trick.
I hope. Yeah, it's like you said, there's a lot to bases to cover with this, but I think either, go extreme to extreme, either, lean into the fact of like, yes, space Hitler, or, like, right, has she paid her dues? We don't, I don't really know, it's kind of a hard one. I do hope that the ensemble, that it's an ensemble piece, that I would like that,
Yeah.
because my favorite Star Treks are, where they use the characters on screen.
I was a bit worried after the first trailer, I got to say, like, I guess a lot of people were, but I think the second trailer, while there's a lot of the same footage, it's a little bit differently styled, and it seems to be, definitely very action orientated. Also looking forward to seeing, I guess some of, Giorgio's backstory. If they go into that could be really interesting, getting into a bit of that and establishing her that way. And but I think she'll pull it off fairly well. But let's see. We've got what is it? A little over a month, and then we'll know.
Yes, just over a month and 2 days, I think it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're coming to the end of the stream. Ben and Seán, what have you guys got coming up? You tell us about what you guys are up to. Are you taking a break for the Christmas New Year period, or are you churning out more videos and content?
Right.
Anything? Doesn't Chris give you a break, Seán?
Star Trek sleeps for no man. My podcasts, The Greatest Generation and GreatestTrek, come out every week. Greatest Generation is on Monday, and we're currently covering Star Trek Enterprise. And GreatestTrek just released our final Lower Decks episode, and we're going to do a couple of fun things in the next month or so before our review of the Section 31 film on that show. But yeah, both shows are on MaximumFun.org or in your podcatcher. And if you're a person that likes to listen to podcasts on YouTube, we also release them as YouTube videos. And they are funny roast and reviews of all of your favorite Star Trek episodes.
Excellent. Seán, you got anything? What have you got coming up? Anything?
We have in the immediate future, our 2024 memorial list will be out, I think, toward the end of this week. Chris, I know, is currently working on that. And then as we go into January, we will be looking at retro ups and downs. We do have plans, which I will not reveal just yet. But we have, and then just the usual more content than you can shake a target. So,
what kind of target are we talking about? Like the little cute ones or the really big ones?
Chihuahua target.
100%. I mean, like, I'm not sure. I need that as a teddy. I need to have that, and it can go with one of my tribbles.
Oh, very good.
There you go.
And David,
Seán,
you call that a tribble? This is a tribble.
Well, I've got news for you, buddy.
The tribbles are getting bigger.
I have one other thing to plug. If anybody is watching the show Skeleton Crew,
yes.
There is a character in episode 3 that is named after me and my co-host. My name is Benjamin Harrison. My co-host's name is Adam Pranica, and there's a character on Skeleton Crew named Benjar Pranic. It's like one of the greatest things that's ever happened to us.
That is awesome.
Yeah, we've been toiling away talking about Star Trek for 9 years, and somehow we end up in a Star Wars show.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Voiced by Alfred Molina, amazingly.
Oh, okay. Wow. And David, you've got another deep dive dust off coming up the next couple of weeks or something for the channel, haven't you?
Yes, we've done our poll. So, fairly aptly, it looks like we're doing a retro on yesterday's Enterprise. So that should be a good lead into Section 31. So stay tuned for that one.
Excellent. Well, thanks guys so much for coming on the stream, Ben and Sean. Awesome to have you on. Much appreciated. And thanks everybody for coming along and viewing and being part of the show today. Appreciate everybody's viewership, and thanks for watching the channel throughout the course of the year. It's been a great year of content, and obviously we've got interesting stuff coming up next year with Section 31, and obviously probably soon after that, sometime I would imagine Season 3 of Strange New Worlds, which we're all looking forward to. But yeah, everybody have a amazing Christmas and New Year, and obviously we'll catch you guys all in the new year. Have all the best to everybody's families, and have a safe and prosperous Christmas. Thanks everybody for coming along.
Thank you very much.
Happy holidays.
Cheers.